It's time for Recipe of the Day. I've been aching to tell you about this recipe for whipped cottage cheese forever. I first tested it back in November when my parents were visiting, and my mom literally kept finding me standing with the fridge door open, holding the container of it, dipping pita bread into it. And she was like, "You really like that cottage cheese dip, don't you?" And I was like, oh my God, I can't stop eating it. I have made so many batches since then. It's really, really unbelievable. You're basically just taking cottage cheese, putting it in a food processor with a little salt and whipping it up, and it just gets creamy and smooth and so tasty, cheesy, but it's also like kind of healthy and good for you, high protein. If you're using low-fat cottage cheese, it's low fat, and you can do it savory and spicy like I did here with that chili oil with garlic in it, or you can make it sweet. You can put honey in it and then put it on berries. So it's just like super versatile, super delicious. I cannot wait for you to try it. Okay, you're starting with a 16-ounce container of cottage cheese. That's 2 cups. You are putting that into your food processor, and you're also adding a half teaspoon of salt. Now, I will say that some cottage cheeses are better than others in this. My favorite, and they're not a sponsor or anything, but I've tried it with a whole bunch of different brands. My favorite here is the Daisy brand. I just find it really, really creamy. Some of the brands are a little bit drier, and so you don't get quite as silky a texture. Now, having said that, if you are using low-fat cottage cheese, or if your cottage cheese is a little bit drier, you can always add a little bit of olive oil at the end after you blend it up and you notice that it's a little bit dry, not as smooth, or even like with the low fat, kind of like lacking a little depth in flavor. A tablespoon of olive oil blended in at the end fixes it. So you're starting with the 2 cups of cottage cheese and half teaspoon of salt in your blender, and you're just blending it, stopping it and scraping down the sides every now and then until it's like really, really smooth. It's going to be like shiny. You won't see any little bits of cottage cheese in there at all. It's going to take a good minute. Then give it a taste, and if you're finding it a little dry, if it didn't get as smooth, or if it's just weak in flavor, add a tablespoon of olive oil and blend it again. And that is really it. Now, of course, like I said, you can do this sweet if you wanted to. So you could do like skip the salt or just like a pinch of salt and then do some honey, about a tablespoon, taste and see if you like it or not. Or you can do sugar. It will dissolve in there and you can make it as sweet as you'd like. Either way, whether you're doing it sweet or savory, I'm just going to tell you, it is delicious spread onto a toasted bagel. It kind of has those like cream cheese vibes, but like, you know, a little better for you. Okay, so if you are looking at the picture for my whipped cottage cheese, you see that there is a delicious chili oil on there. So I'll tell you how to make that as well. So you finished making your whipped cottage cheese, you've tasted it, it's salty enough, it's creamy enough, all of that. Transfer it to a bowl, and then you're going to get a little skillet and you're going to heat 2 tablespoons of olive oil over medium-low heat, and you're adding 2 cloves of minced garlic and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and you're just going to cook, stirring that often until the garlic is softened. And once it's softened, I like to immediately transfer it to a bowl so that the garlic stops cooking and doesn't like get burnt and bitter, you know what I mean? But then you're going to drizzle about 2 teaspoons of that oil mixture onto your cottage cheese, or more if you would like. And then I will just say, if you've seen the video of me making this, or like the overhead, you can't see my face, but it's my hands. If you've seen it, you'll see at the very end, I add a little bit of smoked sea salt. I have the Malden smoked sea salt, but my grocery store sells, I think it's like Badia brand smoked sea salt. Delicious. Just a little bit on top of there for the smoky flavor. So good. So good as a dip for pita bread, for veggies. Like I said, spread onto that toasted bagel. You're going to love this so much. I promise you, you are going to find somebody standing with your fridge door open, eating it straight out of the container. I promise. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is January 31st of 2025. End of January. Can you believe it? Oh, and also I mentioned the video of me making this. If you like reels on Instagram, TikTok, you like seeing great food ideas, make sure you're following me wherever you like to scroll. I am Cook the Story in all the places that I'm at, which is TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.